We're going to cover the top 10 mistakes parents make in special needs planning. Number 10, we never make the future caregiver official. What does that mean? Well, that basically just means that who's going to care for your loved one when you're not able anymore, right? Who's going to be that next person that is going to help them get to doctor's appointments? That's going to help them get to work. That's going to help them manage any financial dollars that are coming in, whether they're government benefits or not. The person that's going to help them understand the world as it comes at them, right? Who's going to help them manage their life? And we need to know who that person is. You need to make sure that you understand how to do that. And most of the time, that's going to be done inside what's called a will. Number 9, communication is absent. What that means is maybe we've done a plan, but we've never actually told anybody about it, right? We've kind of done this plan or done pieces of it, and we're kind of holding it tight, right? You want to kind of let it go a little bit, right? And start to allow extended family members and educate them on what you've done. Because one of the pieces we want to ensure is that, if Aunt Mary in Phoenix wants to leave money to your child and has that in her will, and it's $3,000 or $4,000, that can cause your plan to come crashing down. And so we want to educate her in how to do it appropriately, right? Make sure she understands it so she can adjust accordingly. Grandparents, same thing. Aunts and uncles, same thing. They may have things for your child to give them, especially in terms of financial assets when they pass away, but they probably haven't done it the correct way. So we want to make sure we communicate with them how to do it properly. The other piece to that communication is, oh my gosh, I can't take care of my child anymore, whether I have a stroke or a heart attack, or whether I'm gone and I'm not here anymore. And it gives that next caregiver a head start, right? Because it teaches them everything you've learned about your child up until the point you're not here anymore, right? So their behavioral items, any sensory issues, what they like to do, that they're involved with different organizations, that there's a caregiver that comes in, once a week to help, or there's a therapist that comes in 3 times a week to help, or there's a medication that's taken on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and there's a different one that is taken Tuesday and Thursday. And there's 3 physicians we go to, but we go to one a quarter and one once a month. And so we need to make sure that we transfer your knowledge about your child and your child's life and what your vision for their life is, so that this caregiver has a roadmap to make sure that your child has the best life they can, and that the caregiver can do the job you want them to do. Number 8, your Social Security retirement decision impacts your child. This is one that not many people know about, that the decision that you make on your Social Security retirement benefits can change the amount of income and the benefits that your child's receiving if they were considered disabled before the age of 22. So we just need to understand that, and then you're able to make an appropriate decision to better your life and to better your child's life. Number 7, your plan is to disinherit your child with special needs. Well, the disinheritance model is basically, I know my child can't have more than $2,000 worth of assets, and I understand that they're going to need more than that to help support them for the rest of their life. I'm just going to leave all my money to my other child and ask them, with this money, please take care of your sibling. What that's doing is that's putting a great deal of pressure on that child to do a few things to make sure the money lasts, to not use it for their own benefit, and to protect it. And that protection piece is probably the biggest one, because they are not going to be in control of that, right? They're not in control, unfortunately, if they get into a car accident and it's a fatal car accident and the other driver passes away and they're sued because of that. Well, now through that lawsuit, that money that you left to them is in their name, even though you want it to be used for your child with special needs. But the lawsuit doesn't care. It's going to go after that money because it's theirs. It's not protected. Another situation is a divorce situation, right? All of a sudden, if your child that you just gave all that money to is all of a sudden they're married and their marriage gets to a point where it's just not working anymore and there's a divorce, well, that money is a marital asset. So all of a sudden, the money you thought you had for your child with special needs is now cut in half. So it's not protected. And so that's a mistake that's easily avoided.
I'd like to add also, in the case of the disinheritance model, the case of a spouse predeceasing another spouse. So if you are married and your wife passes before you, and the assets remain with you and they can get left your child accordingly. But in the case where you predecease your spouse, all the assets get left to her. And if she doesn't have the same love and affection for your brother or sister as you do, she could use those assets to her own, for her own use. And if she gets remarried, those assets become her marital assets. So it just goes on and on and on. So we just want to explain to you guys what all the issues are so that you are informed when you make those kinds of decisions. And this is one of those mistakes that we think you should definitely avoid.
Number 6 is never define your loved one's future needs. So you're just not sure what the lifestyle you want for your child is going to cost, right? So we just don't even know. We don't even know what the target is that we're shooting for. And it's very hard to attain a goal when we don't even know what the goal is. Number 5 is never secured your own future. You know, again, whenever I say this, you know, parents do almost what you just did, Keith. You're right. You kind of put your head up. You're like, huh? What do you mean? Well, the reason
I didn't think you saw that, right?
Yeah. You know, I always like to point that out. But the reason I say that is obviously your child relies on you for everything, right? For all their needs or for most of their needs, depending on the age of your child and their abilities. And so if you haven't secured your own future and you don't know what you need in order for your own support, then you're not going to be able to provide them anything at the end of your life. You're not going to be able to help them support themselves because you can't even support yourself. And so it's not selfish to think about making sure that you're okay, because without you being okay, there's very little chance that they will be.
Say you, that's the plural you, meaning you and your wife, you and your spouse, right?
Right. So basically whoever is in that caregiving role, and sometimes we see it's grandparents. You know, it's not even parents, but it's the grandparents who are really the primary caregivers. And so, you know, it's those primary caregivers, husband, wife, mother, father, grandmother, grandfather, whoever's in that role. Number 4 is you never set up a will. And the reason a will is important is because it tells the court system basically 3 things. Who do you want to administer your wishes, where your people go, and where your stuff goes. And so if you don't tell the court system what you want to have happen, every state in our country has already written one for you. And so they're going to determine who's going to administer your wishes, where your people go, and where your stuff goes. And so if you want the government to decide where your child's going to live and how they're going to be supported, then you can go with their plan. Number 3 is incorrect beneficiary designations. So whenever we think of beneficiary designations, we think of anything that is a retirement plan. So a 401k, 403b, maybe people have heard of an IRA or a Roth IRA or a pension plan. Also life insurance, whether it's at work or whether you own it personally. All of those type of financial vehicles move by what's called a beneficiary designation, which is a small little line that you need to fill out. But whoever's name is on that line is who will receive the asset when you pass away. So regardless of what your will say or what your will said in terms of who you want to receive your benefits or your assets, if your beneficiary designations say something else, then your will be trumped by the beneficiary designation. So the beneficiary designation is what the legal world will say will happen with that asset. So we need to make sure that they are correct and that you make sure that you adjust them appropriately if they need to be. Number two, we don't understand the tax system. And boy, that's kind of a really broad, big one, because that's a lot of pages that we're talking about. But the thing that we always focus on is the assets that you want to leave into your special needs trust. Hopefully you have one. Certain items inside of a special needs trust, certain assets will get taxed at a much higher tax rate. And so we want to be aware of that, because we don't want to all of a sudden think we have enough assets for our child and realize when it's too late that possibly 40 or 50% of that asset, because of taxes, is not going to go to our child, but go to the government. So we want to understand it and not make that mistake. Number one is...
Wait, Ryan, you forgot the drum roll.
Oh, yeah, sorry. Number one, everybody excited, is I have a special needs trust, and that's enough. And although a special needs trust is a cornerstone of most people's plans, if it's not coordinated with all the other pieces that we kind of mentioned in the other mistakes, most likely it's going to miss. The plan overall is going to miss your intended targets. Because if things aren't coordinated appropriately, whether it's beneficiary designations, whether it's the will, whether it's the proper asset going in, whether it's the communication to guardians and caregivers and trustees and extended family members, you know, if we don't have enough in there, then it's not going to do what you want it to do.
And Ryan, I would like to add the plus one. The plus one is doing nothing. As a parent, that is one of the worst things that we can do. And that's what this course is all about, is to help walk parents through the process of getting a special needs plan done and make the current year the year that you actually get that done. So our intent is to walk you through the process of completing a special needs plan. Now, we can introduce you to the concepts, but you still have to do the work. You still have to be responsible for that, because if it's not you, who is it going to be? And your child is counting on you.